So how exactly do you install JavaScript? Well, for the most part you don't. Actually, all web browsers can run JavaScript, which is great because a lot of devices have web browsers on them, so when you write something with JavaScript, it will run on all sorts of devices and operating systems. So you have a few options for writing JavaScript. Let me show you a few things you can do to follow along with this course. You could download a code editor. Here I have a Visual Studio Code, but you could also download and install Sublime Text or Atom. For example, if you want to work with Visual Studio Code, you download and install that. It's available for Mac and for Windows users, so don't worry. So you will create, after downloading and installing it, an empty text file and give it a name. Let's say hello world, for example. Click enter. So now we have to open our Explorer and browse to view. My PC is running on the German language, but don't worry, it's gonna be the same for yours. Just open your Explorer, go here to view, and here you have a checkbox which says file name extensions. I think it's the correct translation, so just make sure to click that. And as you could see, now a file says hello world.txt, but we don't want a txt file, so we can rename it with F2 on our keyboard. And now we can say, instead of .txt, we could say .html. Click on yes, and as you see, we have here the Windows Explorer icon. That is because on my machine it's still as the standard browser. I know I should switch it to Google Chrome or Firefox, but anyways, now we can right click, we can go to open with and search for Visual Studio Code. So now this is gonna be open, and now we can write this less or higher sign. Now we can say script, and as you see, we have here automatic completion, and we can say here, for example, console.log. Don't worry what console.log means. We're gonna get into that in a few moments, so don't worry. So let's say hello world, and in JavaScript it doesn't really matter if you put semicolons or not, what semicolons are and what this all means. Like I said, we're gonna get in there in just 1 minute. So now we can save this file. Either way, we can click here on file and choose save, or we can use Ctrl S. So make sure this white dot here, you see this white dot, just make sure it's gone away by saving the file. Now we can minimize that and double click on hello world.html, and now we can click on F12 on our keyboard, and we see here we have the console open, and here we have hello world written on it. As you could see, I think it's a bit complicated for absolutely beginners which want to learn JavaScript. So for that reason, I'm not gonna use in this course Visual Studio Code in this course. If you want to do, please go ahead. I'm gonna instead use GSFiddle. It's a free online IDE sandbox, and we will ignore the HTML and the CSS aspect. We're just gonna focus on the JavaScript. If you first open jsfiddle.net, you will have other layouts. I think you will have this layout, so don't worry. Click here on settings, choose tabs, and like I said, we're gonna ignore CSS and HTML. We're just gonna focus on JavaScript, and I have here for my font size Java. That is because it's a little bit bigger, or it should be a little bigger when I write here hello world. And now change this, for example, let's say to default, and now you can see bigger, and we have here Java. So I think it's a bit better for you that you can see this. And now we can click here on run. Before I click on run, you see here we have here a console. You see everything here is grayed out. Now if I click here on run, we see here we have a 1, and now we can click on the console, And now we see here hello world. So I'm gonna stay with JS Fiddle for the rest of the course. If you want, you can follow along. If you don't want to use an online sandbox IDE, IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, you could, like I said, use Atom or Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text, what you want. I'm gonna stay with JS Fiddle. So congratulations, this was your first line of code in JavaScript. In the next lecture we will see about comments. So stay tuned.